Welcome to our first EOBG. If you don't know what that is, please watch the video in the description so you can know what you're going to find here. Our first game is called Giants versus Dwarves. We will really not need this kind of pieces because we're going to use everyday objects, so let's leave them here. Giants versus Dwarves is a game that will be played by 2 players or groups of 2 players, so up to 4 players can play if you have 2 teams. You will need a bowl of beans and a bowl of lentils. The beans will be the giants and the lentils will be the dwarves. Any other thing might work, but we know any household have plenty of these objects. Then rub your Monopoly game of any die. You can use any 6-sided die for this game and use a coin or something similar like a lid for using it as a marker. You will also need 2 sets of cards with numbers 1 to 9. You can use normal poker playing cards and you will not need them, all of them. But if you don't have poker cards, you can only create these cards by understanding that you will need them numbered and with 2 different colors. 1 color for cards 1 to 5 and 1 color for cards 6 to 9. You will also need a piece of paper and some pencil to keep track of the points. You can use other objects, but we will use high scores like 20 points or 30 points. So it's better to just write them down. So use any piece of paper and a pencil or any digital means to keep your scores. First, you need to place the 1 to 5 cards, playing cards, in the board in this manner. This will be the surface of the mountain. Next, you will complete the mountain by playing the remaining territory cards. These will be called territory cards, placing the 6 here, 7, 8, and 9 card here in the center. This will be the underground of the mountain, and this will be the surface of the mountain. Now, place 2 giants on the card with the number 1, or ace in this case, 1 giant in the number 2, 1 on number 3, 1 on number 4, and 1 giant on number 5. These will be the starting positions of the giants on the board. Now you will place 6 lentils or dwarfs on the card numbered 9. You will place 4 more lentils on card 7, 4 lentils on card number 6, and 4 more lentils on card number 8. This will be the starting position for the dwarfs inside the mountain. Place this token here as beside the mountain. For now, we will use it later. Shuffle the cards you have remaining. These will be also cards numbered 1 to 9. So you will just shuffle and then select who player will play as the giants and which player will play as the dwarfs. Now you're ready to begin. The object of the game is as follows. On High Mountain, the surface giants and the underground dwarfs are trying to conquer each other's territory. Giants want to take the underground and dwarfs want to go out to the surface. In this game, one player will be giants and the other player will be dwarfs, and they will try to score points by having presence on those other territories. The game will be played for 6 rounds and the player with the most points at the end of the game will be the winner. In case of a tie, giants beat the dwarfs. A game round will be comprised of 4 turns, 2 for each player or team. Dwarfs will play first, then giants will play. Again, dwarfs will play, giants will play, and you will do a partial scoring and the round will end. At the beginning of each round, you will have to prepare everything for the round. So first, you will pick all the action cards. These are all the other cards that are not placed as territory cards, and you will shuffle them and pick a random card that you will place anywhere near the board. Now you will resolve this card by taking the marker, the round marker, the small marker that you're using, and you will place it over the card with the same number as the card you just drawn. Now, from the action cards, you will deal 2 cards for each player. These cards are secret and only the owner of the cards can see them. If you're playing in teams, you will probably have to deal 2 cards for the other players as well, so you will have to deal all the cards. If you only have 2 players, 4 of these cards will not enter play. Now, the faction that has the least points will have an advantage in the game. In the case of a game that you're playing with teams, what you're going to do is, if the dwarfs, for example, are the players that have the least points, they will be able to take at random one of the cards from their opponent's team and take it away. On the other hand, if you're playing with just 2 players, the advantage will be as follows. If, again, Dwarves are the faction with the least quantity of points, you will give them 1 additional card, so they have more advantage when taking choices. If both factions are tied, you don't have to do anything. They will play with the same cards in this round. Now we will explain the turns. First, the Dwarves will start playing. In a 2-player game, the player will take both of the cards that he has on his hand, and he will be able to choose one of them to make one of 2 actions. 1, reinforcement, or 2nd, movement. If you're playing in teams, both players will have to choose who goes first and who will go second. In that case, they can talk to each other, but they cannot say what they have. They can only say something like, I want to go first, or you go first, but you cannot hint onto what do you have on your own cards. So for example, here the players will choose that this player will be the first one to take the first turn. The first game action possible is reinforcement. We will start with the Dwarves, with this player's turn, to show you how it works. So first, to make an action, players will take their action cards and they will check their numbers. To make a reinforcement, you will have to play 1 card that has the same color as the cards that are of your territory. So Dwarves are black and Giants are red. In this case, I will play the card number 7 and I will show it to all other players. After I do this, I can reinforce the territory that matches the number in the card. So in this case, it's number 7. If you are a dwarf, you will reinforce by taking 3 more pieces and placing them on that particular card. Now the turn passes to the Giants. So in this case, this player will begin as the Giants. We will do a reinforcement with the Giants the same way. So we have a red and a black card. Giants will have to play a red card to reinforce. So this player will take this card, show it to all other players, it's a 5. Giants will only reinforce with 1 troop. So here we will place 1 troop on card number 5. The second possible action is movement. Now it's the turn for the Dwarves, so we will explain movement using this player. So the player takes the action cards again to his hand, he will be able to see them, and to move he can play either card, it doesn't matter the color. When he chooses a card, for example, he will choose this one, the 6. He will show it, he will say that he's going to move, and now he will be able to activate one of these territories, either the territory with the same number of the card or any orthogonal adjacent territories. This means no diagonals. So in this case, the player will activate the same card as the number because they want to move towards that territory. If players would like to move to another territory, for example, if the Dwarves would like to move to the territory number 9, he would then activate territory number 9. But in this example, he will activate territory number 6. When he declares the activation, he can take any pieces of his own troops from any adjacent territory, even diagonal ones, and bring them to that territory. For example, I will take here 2 troops from here, 2 troops from here, and 1 troop from there, and bringing them all to this territory. When Dwarves move, they need to leave at least 3 troops in the territories they move troops from. Now it's turn for the Giants. Giants will move as well for sakes of this example. So they will take their cards, they will watch what they have, and in this case the Giant will play card number 9. He can now activate cards 9, 7, 8, or 6. Remember, orthogonal adjacent cards. He wants to move towards this territory. So he can say with this card, I want to activate territory number 8. You can see that you don't have to have any troops in that territory to move there. In this case, Giants will move one of their troops from here to territory number 8. He cannot move from territory number 3 because Giants also have a restriction. They have to leave at least 1 troop in the territory they're moving from. So here they cannot move any more troops towards this territory. But also, when they move towards a territory where there are now both sides of the factions, this will trigger combat that I will explain now. For this combat scenario, we will do an example that's not based on what we have been playing until now. This is to make easier the explanation of combat. For combat, it's better if you have a sheet like this one, where you will write a base attack for the Giants and the Dwarves. Giants has a base attack of 5, Dwarves has a base attack of 7, and a kill stat. So here, Giants will kill 3 and Dwarves will kill 1. How does this work? Now, here in this scenario, Giants will attack Dwarves. Then Giants go first. To initiate a combat, the first thing you need to do is create armies. How do you create armies? So you have, for example, here 3 Giants. You can divide these Giants in different armies. You can have 3 armies of 1 Giant. For example, in this case, you will do 3 different attacks. You can do 1 army of 2 Giants and another army of 1 Giant, or you can do just 1 army of 3 Giants. An army cannot have more than 5 troops, which will not happen as often for Giants, but it will happen often for Dwarves. In this case, this player will go for 2 armies, 1 of 2 Giants and 1 of 1 Giant for the sake of this explanation. Now we must determine what does the player needs to roll on the dice to actually make a hit. In the case of Giants, we have a base attack of 5. What we will do is subtract the number of troops in an army to that base attack. So, for example, we will start attacking with this lone troop in this army of 1, right? So, what are we going to do? 5. We subtract 1 and we have a base attack of 4. With a base attack of 4, I will need to roll 4, 5, or 6 to actually make a hit. So, if I roll the dice and I get a 2, for example, I will miss the attack. But if I roll a 4, I will hit. If I hit, I then apply damage immediately. In this case, our kill stat is 3. So this means that Giants will kill 3 Dwarves with just 1 hit. Now let's do the same for the 2-troop army. We have a base attack of 5, we subtract 2, we have now 3. Then we need to hit with a number where 3, with a roll of 3 or more, to actually hit. So we go again and we missed. Again, if I would have gotten a 3, I would have hit and I would still kill only 3 troops. The army size doesn't impact the number of troops you kill per hit. So in this case, I will take 1, 2, and 3 Dwarves out of that territory, and now it begins the retaliation phase. Now Dwarves can attack. Let's imagine Giants didn't hit, or that Dwarves are attacking the Giants. In that case, we would have a lot of Dwarves to create armies from. So again, the restriction is no more than 5 troops per army. So we will have, for example, that we can do something like this. Let's create a 5 army troop in this scenario. So now the player decides which army will start fighting. In this case, let's start with this, the army with the number 5. What happens here? So we have 7, we subtract 5, right? So we have 2. We can hit with a 2 or more. It's important that a number 1 in the die will always miss. Always. It doesn't matter if the subtraction goes down to 1, it will always miss. So in this case, if they fight and they get a 1, they will miss. But if they throw again and they have a 4, they immediately kill 1 giant. Again, only the kill stat determines the number of troops they will kill. You can do the same for the following armies. In this case, you say 7, we subtract 3, it's 4, and we roll a 3, we didn't hit, and 7, we subtract 2, 7 minus 2 is 5, and we got a 4, we didn't hit, so now combat ends. There is one more rule to consider. I have added 2 penalties to the sheet here in our rules for combat. So the first penalty is the territory penalty. When you have giants, if they are fighting on the underground, you will have to add 1 more to their base attack. The same applies to dwarves if they are in the surface. So attacking the other faction territory will be harder. In this case, I will attack with these both giants of dwarves. Now I'm attacking on an underground territory because it's black. So I have 5 plus 1, 6, minus 2, we have a base attack of 4. So in this case, we missed. Let's go back to our previous example. In this case, we will say that Giants were fighting the Dwarves. We will not go through the whole process. Let's just say that Giants made a hit and then Dwarves did a miss. In that case, Giants would hit first because they were attacking. They would take 3 of these troops away from the territory. Dwarves missed because they could only hit with a 6 and they got, let's say, a 5. So they miss the hit, and this is how combat is resolved. You will not withdraw any troops. These troops will be both on the territory at the end, and they will share the territory. In a 2-player game, at the beginning of the round, both players would have only 2 cards, or 3 if they had the losing player advantage. In that case, on the first round, one player would have played 1 card, then the Giants would have played 1 card, then the Dwarves would have to play the remaining card, and then the Giants the remaining card. After all cards have gone, in this case, or after both factions have taken 2 turns, the game round will end, and now we will do a partial scoring. How do you score points in Giants versus Dwarves? So first, you will check where the marker is placed. If the players that have any number of troops in that territory will win 1 point, not 1 point per troop, just 1 point. So in this case, Giants will win 1 point, and we will place it here in our scorecard for having a troop on the territory with the marker. If Dwarves would have at least one troop, they would score 1 point as well, but in this case they don't score anything. Second, they will score 1 point, Giants 1 point for each territory where they have at least 2 troops. So in this case they will score 1 point for this territory where they have 2 troops on it. So here is another point for Giants. With Dwarves, to score 1 point this way, Dwarves will have to have at least 6 troops on a territory. So here they have 5, they will not score points in this territory, but here they have more than 6. So this is 1 point for Dwarves. We will place it here. Now comes the most important part in scoring, that is conquests. You will check how many territories of your enemy's faction you have with at least 1 troop. Again, here I have 1 troop in 1 enemy territory if I'm a giant, right? So this will give me 2 points. I will be granted 2 more points. So Giants now have 4 points and Dwarves have 1 because they have not made any conquest at all in this round. If the Dwarves would have at least 1 troop here, for example, they would have been awarded 2 points as well. That's for each territory where you have troops if it's an enemy territory. Now a new game round is played again, resetting everything. So you will take again all the cards, the action cards that you have, you will shuffle them, and you will take 1 card, you will move the marker, and everything will continue as we have previously explained. The game can end in 2 ways. First, if any faction manages to have at least 1 troop in every territory, they automatically win the game. This scoring condition, of course, can only be triggered in the scoring phase of the game round. It cannot be done just at the moment of the conquest. You have to wait and maintain those territories until the end of the game round. The second way of ending the game is by playing 6 rounds. After the 6th round, points are tallied and the player that has the most points win. If there is a tie, Giants win. So this is Giants versus Dwarves. It's a simple game. You will get how it plays in a few turns. As we told you, this is an EOBG, which means it's maybe an incomplete game. It might have needed more playtesting. So if you find that maybe Dwarves are winning more or Giants are winning more, you can adjust and tweak some rules by modifying some of the stats in the game just to make it more fun. We have played it this way sometimes and we have been able to win both as Giants and Dwarves. But if you want to modify anything from the game, be our guest. Share this video, please. If you think this is worthwhile, try the game, leave us your comments. We will be thrilled to know what you think about this game. Thank you.